seeing some increase. In the last 2 days, we've basically, at most of the hives that are being monitored, we've seen a 5 to 10 pound increase in the hive weight. So surely with the nicer weather, we've seen some increase in the nectar. So that's kind of just one example, but most of the graphs look similar, both at the apiary site and the learning center. And Ray Walker shared his graphs from his house, and they look sort of similar too. So I think it's sort of representative of what's happening in the area. You may have some hives that are stellars and like the wind and the rain and go out and forage despite the weather, and those hives may be doing a little bit better, but I think that's kind of what's going on. I think our weather is too much like April 19th and 20th and not enough like May 7th or 10th right now. Overwintered nukes. This is the time to think about overwintered nukes, believe it or not. So coming up in the next month is the time to think about your making nukes. Ed and Steve are going to have a breakout room and talk a little bit more about this tonight. Queen catch Saturdays at the apiary are good ways to get queen cells or queens. I generally like to say that I want to overwinter one nuke for every 3 colonies I have. It's a general good rule. So if you're running 5 colonies, maybe have 1 or 2 overwintered nukes. Why? It helps you be sustainable. So, you know, the average colony loss in our neck of the woods is 25 to 30% over the winter. Did I just lose everybody?
No, we're here.
Something happened to my computer.
We're here. Maybe you just stopped sharing.
Yeah.
Something happened. Something strange happened.
It's a computer.
It's a Mac.
It is.
Oh, it's a Mac.
It's telling me to shut up, basically. Double screen boards. Yes, Mark's raising, double screen boards. I'm sort of using them this year. There's a couple nice videos online about how to use double screen boards. They're basically a 3/4 inch board with number 8 hardware cloth on both sides. There's an entrance for the new colony above the double screen board. So basically, you're taking your colony, you're basically splitting it in 2. The top part of it thinks it's queenless because the queen pheromone can't be transferred amongst the bees to the top part of the colony. So that top part of the colony has a new entrance, and they'll gladly accept or build a queen. So whether or not you give them larvae and choose to let them build their own queen, or whether or not you drop in a queen cell or a mated queen, it's a great. It seems to be like a great way to make a split. Especially right now when you're really, don't want to, sort of compromise the forager force of your hive to make honey. You could still keep that hive all together, yet split it vertically and have your nuke ready to take off at June and have your overwintered nuke. Again, Bob Binney online, has a nice 30-minute sort of video on how best to use it and how he uses it, and it's nicely done. So I wasn't going to repeat myself, but Bob Binney, BINNY, I think, YouTube video is a nice example of this, and they're relatively easy to make. It's basically just a 3/4 inch piece of wood with some holes drilled in it and an entrance. So think about that. You don't have to use that. You could also just make a split and take it off your hive, but I thought that was a cool way to keep it on the hive. So anyway, remember when you make up a hive, there's 4 things in a hive. I say food, brood, bees, and disease. So anytime you make up a split or make up a new hive, you want to be thinking about food. Make sure you give it some food, pollen and nectar. Make sure you give it brood. The type of brood sort of depends on what your goal of what you're making is, but it's always good to have some brood. Obviously, you need bees. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to take care of your brood, and you never want to be seeing disease. People forget about disease. We haven't really talked much about disease. Disease will come up next month a bunch, but you know, even new beekeepers really should be on the lookout for disease every time they inspect their hive. You know, I don't know if Jeff's on tonight, but he's taught me a ton about how just to be observant of the brood and to be looking for signs of disease in your hive. And Bee Chat's a great place if you don't know what you're looking at and you want to take a picture or two, you could send it to me. You could join Bee Chat on Friday. Jeff's usually on Bee Chat on Fridays. And so it's a great way. So if you see anything in your hive that looks a little suspicious, or the brood looks funny, or the cappings look funny, you know, just share it with us. Because
Just a point, Jeff is our state inspector in this area.
thanks, Jeff Echo. Yes.
Yeah, as well as a beekeeper.
So I'm going to turn it over to Paul now, and he's going to talk a little bit about his cowboy beekeeping. And I already gave Paul his intro, so take it away, Paul.
All right. Get my props on. I had a good April. It was a busy month, big with spring buildup. My 4 hives and 2 nukes. I finished reversing the deeps. For those of you who have brood chambers as double deeps, in April you want to reverse the brood chambers. So the queen will most likely be in the upper chamber. So you simply take that upper box, put it on the bottom, and the bottom box is usually pretty depleted and empty. So you put that above the queen, and the queen will eventually move her way up into it. And then she'll get the idea that you can use both brood chambers to raise brood, and she'll be all set. So I had decided with the my new hive, when I reversed it, the bottom deep was pretty much empty. So I just shook all the bees into the other single deep, and I decided to try Steve Rapasky's single brood chamber management. So I worried about it because already I had 8 frames of brood in there, 4 sealed and 4 open. But I added 2 supers right away to make sure they had enough space and enough room for bees to hang out. But by April 29th, I had 6 frames of open brood and 4 sealed brood. So every frame had brood in it. So my luck did not hold out. I was worried about swarming, even with all those deeps, all those supers on it. So May 12th, I looked in there yesterday, and I have 14 queen cells. So I think that that one's probably going to swarm, but we don't know. So I put another deep on just in case. Maybe the queen will see all that open space and run up in there, and everybody will be happy. So we'll see what happens with the new hive. And I don't know about single brood chamber management yet. I hope that the people who have tried it did better with it than I have. But I had a lot of buildup in my hives. A lot of them are really packed. My green hive has 15 frames of brood in it as of last week. And I haven't done a demery yet, but I may have to. So you have to keep a watch for your brood chambers getting congested. I did go into my green hive and take a super yesterday. The bottom super was full, so I took that off and I went into the brood boxes and I pulled out 4 deeps of honey, 4 frames of honey, and substituted empty frames. So that'll give the queen some space to lay. So that's a good management technique. Take the heavy frames that are full of honey from the deeps as well as the supers. So I reduced my nukes to single deeps. I had them in 2 double 5-frame nuke boxes. So I reduced them to single deeps to keep them warmer in March. And, you know, they didn't have that much biomass. So they were warmer in March with a single box. So when April came, I was getting ready to sell them, but the deal kind of fell through. So one was getting a little congested, but I had to go away on a trip. So by the time I got back after 8 days, I was busy trying to fix things around the house. And I waited about another 3 days, and I was down by the lilac tree after dinner. I was going to trim it and cut it. So I was out there with a saw and loppers. And it was after the sunset. So a bee came by me. And I said, well, why is a bee coming by me? Because I don't even think they like lilacs. And then another bee came by me, and I said, "Well, this is way too late. It's way past your bedtime." So I took a look inside the lilac bush, and there was a swarm. So I had predicted in March, based on my observation of drones larvae being present in March, I had extrapolated the maturation time and then hatching time and maturation time, and it figured that the earliest I would see a swarm would be around April 12th. So here it was April 25th, and I had my first swarm. So I figured it was one of mine. It was relatively small, so I grabbed a nuke box from my shed, and I just held the nuke box and bent the branch over and banged all the bees into the nuke box. Of course, all hell broke loose, so I put the nuke back on the ground and grabbed another nuke box that had a screened bottom and banged some more of the bees into that nuke box. Then I inverted that over the first nuke box, and then I went and got a cardboard box, and I had my suit on and my gloves. So I scraped bees off of the lilac bush into the cardboard box and kept ferrying it over to the nuke and shaking them into the nuke. I finally got all of the bees put away in the nuke, and I put a cover on it and a couple of bricks, and I called it a night. So I let them alone for 3 days, and then I removed everything and pulled the number 3 frame, and there was a little blue spotted queen. And it came from my nuke. Oh, by the way, George, 2021 is a white year for marking queens. So sure you mark those with white, not purple. Blue was last year.
Not
Anyway,
pink.
I knew that this queen was my queen because of that perfect little blue spot. Because back in March, when I was going through the hives with my apprentice, Dave, I was holding a frame from that nuke, and I was explaining things to him, and the queen walked right across the frame. She was unmarked because she was from September, and I failed to see her. I had never seen this queen before in the nuke. So there she was. So I said, "Hold this frame." And then I grabbed my blue pen, shook it up, uncapped it, and then I just calmly reached over while Dave was holding the frame, picked the queen up by her right wing with my right hand, transferred her to my left hand, took my right hand with the marking pen, put a perfect little dot on, which was rare for me because I usually push too hard, and ink goes everywhere over the wings and everything. But this one was a beautiful little dot. And I dropped her back into the box, and Dave was duly impressed. So anyway, there she was in the new nuke. So I went up and inspected my hives, and I found all these queen cells in the original nuke from whence she came. So I gave them an extra box, and I'm happy to report that they have a new virgin queen running around in there. So she'll go out and get mated locally here, and won't get those hot genes from the apiary. So anyway, that's the story of my first swarm and how I caught it, and it was one of my own. So anyway, what will I do with my bees this month? Well, I'm finished with equalizing the number of bees. I have a lot of bees in all my hives, especially the green hive is really full of larvae and eggs, and they just keep making them hand over fist. So I had 4 supers on it too. So I haven't done a demery yet. I'm hoping against hope, and we'll see. But there's no queen cells in there yet. And if there is, there must have 80,000 bees in there already. So I'm not worried. They're making honey hand over fist. So if the queen leaves, that will be better. And I'll have nukes to replace the queen with, or they'll replace her herself. So I'm not worried if the green hive swarms. And the other ones have shown no sign of swarming to date. So I'm still using green drone frames as my biological control for the varroa mite. I have swapped out 8 full green drone frames from my hive so far, and that's roughly 2 for every hive. And I take them out when they're fully capped and freeze them at least for a day or 2, and then put them back in the hive and scrape it a little bit. And they clean it out in a day. and they'll have a new round of brood production, and the varroa mite will preferentially like the drone brood and will lay the eggs in there, and I'll get rid of the lots of mites. But mostly I'll be getting ready for a stellar honey flow. I have taken 2 full supers, one from each hive, and I went into the green hive and took 4 frames of honey from that deeps. So black locust, I think, is going to be maybe blooming next week if we get some 70-degree weather. I was going through Richmond back on April 22nd, and the black locust was blooming there. So back in the March newsletter, I talked about accumulating growing degree days. So I looked up the zip code of Richmond, Virginia, and the black locust was blooming at 1,382 accumulated growing degree days. And we were only at 1,000. So the black locust was far off. But I just checked on May 12th that we now have 1,357 accumulated growing degree days as opposed to that 1,382 that I saw in Richmond. So we're only like 30 degrees off. So I would bet that the black locust will be blooming here in Downingtown maybe by next week. There's not a trace of it yet, so you may get it in southern Chester County, but not up here in Downingtown and points north. So anyway, I hope it's a good flow. So be sure that your bees have a lot of supers on. Get your honey pails and your extractors ready. I like to give my bees easy access, even though it's a little cool. With my supers, I put a super on and I push it forward an inch over the first deep. And then the second super, I pull it back an inch over the first super. And then the third super, I push it forward. This gives the bees many entrances, so they can come in at any level. They don't have to hit the bottom board and go all the way up 6 feet. They can just come in at the top if they feel like it. I don't worry about rain. If it's a heavy rain, I can always put a little stick on top there to kind of keep it covered during the rainstorm. And I think it's good for ventilation too. I really like to ventilate the hives. So that's what I'll be doing this month, expecting a great honey flow. And I hope you all have a good flow and good luck with your own cowboy beekeeping.
Thanks, Paul. I assume, Paul, the 15 frames of brood are medium frames and not deep.
No, they're deeps.
No, really? In one hive?
She's crammed.
Wow. You know, because if you think there's 7,000 cells on both sides of a deep frame, and if the queen lays, say about 70% of a frame, you know, so that's about 5,000 eggs, larvae, brood on a deep frame. So 5,000 times 15 would be 75,000 brood.
Yeah.
Divided by 21, which would be a laying rate of.
But it was 15 frames that had brood on it, either open or closed.
Yeah, it's impressive. So that queen is definitely laying over 2,000 eggs a day right now. Then
she had a good time.
Oh yeah, they're obviously able to support that amount of laying too. You know, not only is she laying that much, but the colony can do it. How old's that queen, Paul?
What's that?
How old's that queen?
Just a year.
Just a year. Wow.
They're all blue queens.
Now, why is that? Because they swarmed, or you replaced them, or?
My bees seem to do their own replacement.
Okay.
Really notice that there's a swarm. You know, just every now and then they pop out some queen cells, and it doesn't seem like honey production falls off, but they seem to replace them about every year.
When was the last time you brought in any bees into your apiary that weren't yours, or have you ever?
Never.
Never.
Well, I bought a package, you know, 8 years ago when I started, and then at one of the conferences I won a nuke from Jim Bob, so I brought that in. But I got my package from Jim Bob as well.
So that was about 8 years ago, and you've been sustainable ever since without bringing in any bees.
Right. Yeah, I make nukes all the time, and I've raised some at the club apiary, so I do have some club apiary genes in my lines. But I do
You think
have.
they're hot, or were you just joking?
I think they're a little hot. The original ones, which my white hive and my white nuke, they're the original ones, and they're more friendly.
Got it.
So they will sting me too.
That's amazing. I mean, I always love listening to Paul and his descriptions on how he manages his bees. It's wonderful. It really is. If I could only be so thorough and complete about my hive management, never going to happen. From your records, do you feel like you have less honey so far this year, more honey, or do you keep such harvest records?
Last year I don't think I took anything until late May.
Late May. Okay, so not much
Black
different.
locust. We had a cold spell last year, and the black locust was delayed around here,
Mm.
and only lasted about 2 weeks. So maybe we'll have a better luck this year.
You definitely in where I am in Glen Mills, the black locust just started to bloom yesterday. So, and in Delaware, it's more fully open in the Wilmington area. So, and I was up in Downing. Actually, was up in Downingtown today and noticed that you could see the buds, but they weren't open up there. So, interesting.
Look at that phenology network in my March newsletter, and type in your zip code,
Mm-hmm.
and you can look at the curves. So what I'm trying to find is a table that will give plants blooming by accumulated growing degree days.
Mm. I
I have found it for when they can base it to either 50 degrees or 32 degrees. So I like to look at the graph on the 32 degree base temp. But most of the data I've found is based on a 50 degree base temp. So it's not easy to convert either.
And every year the amount, I'm no plant expert. Is Jesse on or Carl is on, right? Like, is the nectar production different every year, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's different every year.
And do you know what factors that are involved in how much nectar a tree produces?
Mostly heat. Oh, amount of nectar, I don't know. But time of blooming, phenology, that's all
Right.
based on heat.
Heat, okay. But the amount of nectar, is that based on?
Yeah, that's we're real variable.
Yeah, but that's
We need
variable, right?
to-
Each year, I think so. Anyway, does anybody-
we need probably to move on.
we can't obsess about nectar amounts
No,
in flowers.
I don't think most of us want to stay until midnight this time.
I control the keyboard right now, right?
I'm good if we do.
I can take control.
I know. Just don't give it to Walt.
No, never again.
So this is Bee Chat. You know, if you think these Friday, if you think our Thursday meetings are fun, Bee Chat's even more fun. So Friday night from 7 to 9. The link's there. It's on the website. There's usually somewhere around 30 or 40 people that join, and we just chat bees. So it's sort of unstructured, and whatever comes up, and somebody, I'll share a story, because someone came. Where did I run into somebody? Was it at the auction? No, I forget where it was. Oh, it was at the beginner's course. Someone after the beginner's class came up to me with their phone and said, you know, can you take a look at this picture of you know, they took a picture of the hive and they wasn't sure what was going on. I said, yeah, let me take a look. And I looked at it, and I tried my best to give them some advice. And then we start talking about, you know, other ways, you know, to get help, right? Like whether or not it be the mentoring program, or she was in the beginner's class, which was great. And then we talked about Bee Chat, and she says, well, I join Bee Chat regularly. And I said, why didn't you just say, you know, shout out, like, I got a picture to show you on Bee Chat, you know? And she said, well, I was intimidated, you know, or I was afraid that I was going to sound stupid. And that's real. And I get it. You know what I mean? I remember my first meeting when I, like 8 to 10 years ago, when I came to the CCBA and Warren was there, and I had this question. I felt like so nervous to go up to Warren and ask him a question about beekeeping. Would he even give me the time of day to answer my question, or could I even phrase my question correctly, like Warren would have any clue what I was talking about, you know? So I was there, you know, and I really, I try to encourage people, like it's a journey, and your learning's a journey, and we're all on our journeys of learning, and I try to be supportive, and I think the people who are the gurus and the experts, not me, in most areas of beekeeping, try to be likewise. So I really encourage people, if you have something that you want to get some advice on or share, come on Bee Chat. You don't have to stay you could stay for 15 minutes. You can get your question answered and log off, you know? So it's just there. And I just highly encourage people to check it out, you know?
I guarantee that if you have a question, there are other people that have the same question.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Yeah. So again, it's a great place. So come join us. That's all I got, I think. Hold on. Did you mess up my slides, Mark? Breakout rooms. I thought he took control of my keyboard. So hopefully Tom, Russell, or Warren are on. I haven't seen Warren, but hopefully Tom and Russell are on in the beginner's room. I'll head over to the beginner's room. Plants, if you want to talk about what to grow or any ideas on what to put in your bee yard, go to the plants. That'll be Jesse and Carla.
I'm on, George. So
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I am.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So Tom will take the beginners in the beginner breakout room. Is Keith on? Merle, you want to take the advanced room?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, thanks, Keith. I didn't hear you. Sorry about that. Keith is going to take the advanced room and talk about optimizing your honey production. Ed and Steve, I don't know if Steve's on or not. I see Ed there. We'll talk about, we'll do a breakout room about nukes and how to get a strategy for making over nukes. And if anybody needs some website help, Jack will be doing some website help. So, and just, you know, just thank you all for joining this month. I apologize for not being a sort of packed agenda, but next month will be Ray talking about the census, and we'll be starting to talk about mite management a little bit, and who knows what else. So please join us next month for the monthly meeting, and have fun in the breakout rooms.